Hello, everyone. My name is Michael Thomas, and I'm the superintendent with Colorado Springs School District 11. And I want to welcome each and every one of you to this web-based informational session that we'll be hosting for our community. And today we're going to focus our conversation around the social emotional supports for our students and our families, recognizing that every single one of us is really in a significant time of transition, and we're all managing this pandemic in our own unique ways. And we want to honor that and recognize that in terms of our abilities to support our families and our students during these times. You've heard me talk on a variety of different videos about our focus on the graduate profile. And I have talked about how we are really seeing evidence of that profile come to life, and specifically is the healthy and balanced learner as well as the empathetic collaborator. You know, the skills of being healthy and balanced and having a sense of empathy during this time, I think, are critically important. And it's something that we're seeing happen all throughout the Colorado Springs region. Crises really show the character that we all possess, and the character that I see every single day virtually nowadays is the fact that people have a deep sense of care for one another and how we can be the greatest support, not only to ourselves, but to our families and to our students and to folks just everywhere, really. And we are really trying to ensure that for the remainder of time that we are in a stay-at-home order and that we have active school occurring through our distance learning platform, that our focus isn't just academics. And it's critically important that we reestablish what a distance relationship looks like with our families and with our students. And then also how we build upon that relationship to ensure that whatever a student needs, we are able to link them to the resources outside of ourselves that we might not be able to provide, so that they can be as successful as possible. Today, we have a phenomenal team from District 11 that's going to be facilitating a PowerPoint, but then also addressing some of the questions that we are hearing frequently asked by our students and our families. And we are going to take this opportunity to record this so that you can access this at any time and or share it with those that are important to you in your lives. And then subsequent recordings will follow so that we have a series of resources that the families in our community can tap into around the whole social emotional aspect during this pandemic. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Cory Nodestine, who will introduce members of his team that will be part of our conversation with you. Again, I want to thank you so much for choosing District 11, and so proud and honored to serve as your superintendent, and so proud to be joined by some phenomenal members of our D11 family that will have some important information for you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Thomas. It's a pleasure to be with the community, even if it's only in this virtual space. We do want to just take a moment and thank all those families that took the time to send us questions that they might be having, and really want to be able to address as many of those as possible, both through our presentation today, but also at the end through a question and answer opportunity. We also want to remind you that you're probably experiencing many types of emotions during this time, and they can be challenging, and sometimes we're having really positive, healthy emotions as well. And it's okay that you're challenged some days, and it's okay that you're feeling positive other days. All these experiences are normal and valid for this unprecedented space that we're living in. And we just want to acknowledge that you're doing your very best to both support your students' academic growth, but also their social emotional well-being during this time. I'm joined on the presentation today by our MTSS facilitator, Dr. Jennifer Schulte, and our MTSS specialist, Sonia Urban. They'll be joining in throughout the presentation that we have for you today. We also want to let you know that the presentation will be available both in a PDF form and also in a closed caption format, so you have that available. We're going to jump right in and start sharing some information with you. We'll move through the slides fairly quickly in the next 15 or 20 minutes or so, and then you'll have the opportunity to hear from us as well to answer a couple questions. So we're going to jump right in and get started. And I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Jennifer Schulte.
Hello there, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. You know, although we can't see your faces, we know that you will be watching this on your own time, and we look forward to sharing this information with all of you. And like Dr. Thomas said, looking forward to sharing some additional video opportunities and reach out to all of you. We'd like to start by grounding our conversation with a quote from Dr. Cory. He's a world-renowned child psychiatrist and trauma expert, and he states, "The most powerful buffer in times of stress and distress is our social connectedness. So let's all remember to stay physically distant, but emotionally close. Reach out and connect. Even a short text or smiling face on Zoom can help." And one of his main concepts is to regulate, relate, and reason. And there we'll go into greater detail about that concept later in the presentation. And additional information also from Dr. Perry can be found on the resource page on page 10. And it's the article that is entitled Pandemic Toolkit for Parents. And so let's focus on social emotional well-being. The Collaborative for Academic and Social Emotional Learning provides 5 key social emotional learning competencies, which include self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision-making. So the question is, how can we incorporate these social emotional competencies within our daily lives? And we have highlighted a few, but you'll also be able to look at these in more detail by clicking on the link that you see on this particular page. So when we think about helping our students to identify emotions, we can do this by talking to them about the emotions that you may be seeing that they're exhibiting. And I think we need to be mindful that if a student is in a heightened state or is experiencing a stress response, that may not be the best time to identify emotions with your student, but instead wait until they're more calm, where you can have a conversation and you can help them to explain the feelings that they may be having. Another idea is to develop healthy stress management techniques. Some of those may include trying to continue the existing hobbies that are already in place, or maybe practicing breathing strategies, or yoga, or meditation, or taking walks outside, or riding a bike. And those are just to name a few. I'm sure there are a lot of other ideas that you can think of to develop those healthy stress management. Also setting realistic goals. By setting a daily routine and having daily goals where you're creating a routine that you can count on each and every day will help with the social emotional health. And then respecting others as well. And what might this look like? I think maintaining that physical distancing, that we're all following the CDC guidelines, and to wear a mask in places that are hard to stay 6 feet apart. We also need to consider about communicating regularly with one another, asking each other what we need and honoring that request. In addition, relationship building. There are, like I said, on page 10, there are a variety of resource ideas that you can consider. as well as throughout the entire presentation about how we can focus on relationship building during this current time that we're experiencing. And then at the end of the day, having that reflective moment where we can say, how did the day go? What went well? And what needs to be revised for tomorrow? And like I said, those are just a few ideas that we can incorporate into our daily lives. But please, if you would like some additional ideas, to click on the link, the Castle link. So some additional recommendations to support and protect students' emotional well-being. Understanding that reactions to the pandemic may vary. Children respond to stressful situations in a variety of ways, and there's no right or wrong way. We just need to be aware of changes in behavior for our students. Some may be more irritable or clingy, or some may regress. Some may demand extra attention or have difficulty with self-care, sleeping, and eating. We also need to ensure the presence of a sensitive and responsive caregiver. We know that we need to also take care of ourselves so that we can be the very best for our students. And then social distancing should not mean social isolation. Children, especially young children, need quality time with their caregivers and other important people in their lives. So social connectedness improves children's chances of showing resiliency to adversity. So thinking of creative approaches to staying connected are important. Things like writing letters or getting on some type of technology platform so that we're staying connected. And then also providing age-appropriate information, because we know our students are at varying developmental levels. So just being mindful of providing those age-appropriate information to our students. And then also creating a safe physical and emotional environment. First, adults should reassure children about their safety and the safety of the loved ones, and tell them that it's an adult's job to ensure their safety. Second, adults should maintain routines, and I've spoken a little bit about this, routines to provide children with a sense of safety and predictability, because the more predictability we can make it, or the more predictable we can make it for our students, the safer they will feel as we go through this pandemic and distance learning. And finally, adults should support children's development of regulation. When children are stressed, their bodies respond by activating their stress response systems. So just recognizing when they are in a heightened state that we need to help them to regulate and calm down, and then we can more effectively have conversations. Some additional recommendations include keeping children busy. When children are bored, their levels of worry and disruptive behavior may increase. So the busier you can keep your student, and making it meaningful, connected not only to their peers, but the families, and making sure that those routines are in place. Increasing children's self-efficacy. Self-efficacy is the sense of having agency or control, and it is especially important trait during times of fear and uncertainty. We also want to create opportunities for caregivers, which may mean yourself, to take care of themselves. And I've spoken to that as well, that our self-care is just as important, right? We need to be our best selves for not only ourselves, but for those that we are charged with taking care of. And then also seeking professional help if children show signs of stress that does not resolve relatively quickly. And you'll see that there's a link there that will give you more in-depth information about how you can reach out for professional help. And finally, emphasizing strengths, hope, and positivity. Children need to feel safe and secure and positive about their present and future. And we as the adults are the models for our students. And so if we're calm, they're more likely to be calm as well. So we need to be mindful of how we can create that safety and that positivity for them.
Hi, I wanted to share some ideas with you, other considerations and tools that might be helpful on the day-to-day basis of taking care of yourself and your family and those that you love around you. Just the ideas of establishing daily routines, things, practicing daily gratitude with your family. At dinner time, just mentioning one thing that has gone well today is really helpful to ground everyone in a sense of that even though there are things that are beyond our control, there are also really wonderful things happening in our lives and in our families. Looking at the big picture to help reduce stress and anxiety, again, the same sort of idea. Staying positive and future focused, looking forward to how things will go back and seeing our friends in person and physically and how wonderful those pieces will be. Practicing safety of autonomy and belonging and competence, the ABCs of autonomy, belonging, and competence. I apologize. So just having a sense of I belong in this place, to my school, to my family, to this community. I'm loved and I contribute something to the spaces that I inhabit. And again, those really basic things of making sure that we get the amount of sleep that we need. And the recommendation is 8 hours of sleep for adults, children, everybody needs that sleep. And spending time in exercise each day, getting outdoors, enjoying some sunshine, know that the weather is getting better. Maintaining healthy eating habits and also practicing dinner habits with family and those in your home. Also remembering to connect with family, grandparents, friends, even though we can't be together physically, but maintaining that connection with the tools that we have, as Jennifer mentioned. Also remembering to maintain good personal hygiene, and we do that by, of course, hand washing and all of those important recommendations as far as the pandemic is concerned, but also, maintaining our own routines of showering and clothes and just all those routines that kind of get us started every day and are part of our day, whether we are at home or going out and in school as we were before this was happening. And then creating a place of relaxation and calm spaces in our homes. I know space is limited. And but if we have that safe space, that calming space where we can go and rejuvenate ourselves and take care of ourselves, so that we can be better as parents, we can be better for our partners and our children, and just maintain that place of relaxation for ourselves. And one of the questions that was submitted is a very good one, and it's about all the screen time that has become a part of this place in life, and what is the recommendation for that? According to the American Academy of Pediatrics, they actually recommended relaxing the recommendations on screen time and using that as a way to connect with friends and with each other, with the caveat that we are making sure that is not impacting the amount of sleep we get and the amount of presence that we have with those in our physical space, so that it's not impacting our relationships with those in our homes. And the other piece of that I wanted to share was that even though there may be more screen time, of course, we as parents and adults want to work with our students to decide on a good amount of that and maybe negotiate what that means, while also limiting, again, like the social media and gaming and that kind of thing, but using our screen time resources for the educational pieces through distance learning, and the connection that we can foster through video conferencing and that kind of space. The next thing I wanted to offer is a tool, a self-care plan tool that might be a really nice tool for your children and you as parents to sit down and have a conversation about what are those ways, and what are those connections, what are those supports that you as a child need in order to really take care of yourself. And this tool will provide a variety of questions, and I think that it really is probably best done in a relationship and through a conversation, and so that there's understanding around what those supports and needs are for yourself and your students.
We also know that right now, and I think about my own self and those that are around me, as we talk about those risk factors that often pop up that tell us things are going wrong or putting us in a place of distress, we're facing many of those. And what I mean by that is some of the risk factors that put us in a place of distress are being in isolation. And we're all isolated right now. Inability to practice some of our hobbies and wellness practices, those become a little bit more restricted with the stay-at-home order. And we also recognize that there's a great amount of loss happening. We talk about the grief that's happening right now, where our students cannot see each other. They cannot play with each other. They can't go to the playgrounds like they used to. They can't see their friends. They can't see their grandparents face to face. So many things that in our normal lives that we used to be able to do have been taken away from us as we're staying at home. And so those risk factors are elevated for all of us. And so I think that's important to remember, that all of us are feeling levels of distress right now. What's on the screen now for you, though, are additional things to consider as sort of warning signs that though we have these risk factors in place, if these things start to show up, we might need to have some more concerns and reach out for more help from both our schools, but also from our community. And the things that you might be looking for your children talking about is this sense of hopelessness or not having a purpose anymore. We also see that children start to talk about feeling trapped, or this is too much for me to carry. This being in this place, being in this home, is unbearable for me right now. I have a 6-year-old, and sometimes I hear him say, "Gosh, I'm just too much for you right now," right? And that just breaks my heart, knowing that you're trying to work, you're trying to engage, you're trying to take care of their well-being, you're trying to feed them, but you're also trying to educate them. And they're feeling that stress too, and they may be saying those things to you. We might see in our own habits, or and maybe in our own children, a use of alcohol or drugs. We also see students increase their agitation. They may become more reckless in the home. They may be feeling anxious. They may be sleeping too much. So I know we were just talking about 8 hours, and many of our children might need up to 10 hours, but maybe they're sleeping more, or maybe they're not sleeping enough, right? And even though we're isolated, are they withdrawn from the things that they used to love to do, right? And I think that's something that we're seeing a lot of right now. We might be experiencing ourselves this, but our children might be showing signs of rage or talking about seeking revenge more so than they have in the past. And these extreme mood swings, like I'm happy right in this moment, and all of a sudden I'm at a very low point. And then we might even get to a place where we're hearing our students talking about not wanting to be alive. They might want to die. to the next level of that is talking about wanting to kill themselves. Those are all things that we should be talking to our children about, listening to what they have to say. And when we hear more of these things start to add up, then how is it that we seek out help for them? And we have a really helpful tool that we're going to share with you in the resource page on page 10. It's really a conversation starter. And it's around the emotional health of our students, but also you can take that with them. You can sit down and ask them questions. And as you see, you're answering more yeses or you're rating yourself higher on certain categories. That's just another indication that you need to seek out additional supports. But there are some really good positive protective factors that you can put in place. And we want to really highlight those because while we are more isolated and in our homes more, there are things that can be positive about this experience that really serve as a protective layer for our emotional well-being. And part of that is starting with a strong connection to family and our community supports. And I recognize a lot of our community supports, such as maybe our church or Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, maybe an athletic program or participation in Taekwondo. Those are those communities that you might not have access to as often, but you hopefully have the ability to reach out virtually and still make that emotional connection. The other thing is to make sure that if you are seeking supports medically or for your mental health care, that you continue to do that. Many organizations within our community have moved to teletherapy, telehealth, and those are ways to still continue those practices, and we want to keep those up. We also want to talk about ways that we can handle some of these challenges. I know in our home, when we're around each other a lot more conflict comes up than usual, right? And so we're really flexing our skills at trying to handle the challenges that come up every day when we're seeing each other in so many more hours and in confined spaces. So how can we sit down and talk in a way that is positive and productive for finding a solution? Also, if you're having concerns about the mental health of yourself, your family, your student, we want to think about how are we making sure we're restricting access to highly lethal means in relation to suicide. And so if you have firearms in the home, making sure those are safe and secure and put away, access to other lethal means of harm, we want to make sure we're understanding what's in our home and putting them in safe places and monitoring those. But the other protective things that we can do is practice some of our cultural and religious beliefs. And I know in education we don't talk about this as often, but right now I think those are really protective and self-preservation strategies. Many of our belief systems have us thinking about the future, taking care of each other, taking care of others. And we want to practice those as much as you can throughout our daily routine. I know we said we had some resources for you, and here they are. These will be available in a PDF form. You can click on them, and they take you to a lot of helpful links. There's a self-care reflection tool, a lot of resources on how to get help. We still have access to Aspen Point and ThriveWorks, we're two mental health agencies that support our community. You heard us talk about the Collaborative for Academic and Social Emotional Learning, great resources there. Pandemic toolkit for parents, and a lot of other great strategies in there on how to support your child during this time. Dr. Thomas alluded to this, and we hope to provide more of these with more topics that can we can direct you to in the future, when you can listen to them as you have time and pull out strategies that work for your family. We do respect and really appreciate the families that took the time to send us questions. And we're going to open it up. I'm going to turn off the presentation slide so you can see some people's faces. And I'm just going to open it up for the three of us to answer this first question. And it's, how do I explain to my child why they cannot go out and play? I'm going to turn this on. And I'm going to stop the presentation here. And just, from my own perspective, as having a 6-year-old at home, when they closed the playgrounds, that was so devastating. It was one thing that we couldn't get to the school, but the playgrounds was like at least a place where my child could get out his energy, engage, even at a distance with many children. And that was hard. And I think the one thing that we've done in our own family is just continue to have the conversation. And it seems like every day or every other day, we're having to come back and just have a conversation about why is it important to stay home? Why is it important to stay distant right now? And how that what we're doing is also protecting others. And that's our part of being a part of this community and staying healthy. And I know that's challenging, that when your children feel distress because they're not able to play with another child. And my son's an only child, so I try to do 2 recesses a day. I get out and play tag. I'm still trying to work as well, like many of you are. And I would just say this, because this came up as other side questions. Give yourself a little grace right now. We're all trying our very best to be parents, to educate our children from home, to work at the same time. But try to build into that routine just moments, 15 minutes where you can step away, play tag, have a conversation, play a game. And that goes a long way, I think, throughout the day. And so I'll open up to Sonia and Jennifer to get their perspectives.
Thanks, Cory, and I agree with you. And I think, we need to be mindful of the developmental level of our students. And also, I think involving them in the conversations to say, what are some other ways that we can play since we can't do the typical things that we've been doing? So really involving your student in the conversations and getting creative as a family is what I would recommend.
I agree. And I have a high schooler, and so it's not a playground situation, but high schoolers really just enjoy being together. And so I have been doing some brainstorming with my daughter about what that looks like for high schoolers. So as a matter of fact, we bought bananagrams because it's a word game that she can play if her friend in their home has the set. They can use their set, she can use our set, and they can actually play that game together while apart on video. So it is really interesting how creative kids can be and how they hang out and utilize the technology that they have in a meaningful and healthy way, beyond the typical, Facebook social media kind of piece, but there are ways to be together that are creative. So I think that's a fun activity as a family to find ways to play both together with the folks in your house, but also with the people you're accustomed to hanging out with.
Sonia, that brings up another question that we had, and it's how to connect students during this time. And I love that strategy. I was just thinking of some of the ways that I've seen both my friends' children connect with him, but also some other strategies I've seen out there. We used to write letters as a general practice, and that's probably something we don't do much anymore. And it may be a challenge because you may not have everyone's address, but you may have a few. And my son got a handwritten, picture with the, a brief sentence in the mail the other day, and it just, lit him up and got excited. And, we wrote one, sent it back. I think that's one way we can get connected. And, a lot of people right now are writing messages on sidewalks if you're out taking a walk, which I know we get questions, can you be out in public? And, obviously we want to still keep our social distance of 6 feet, and where we can avoid the 6 feet when we're in those essential travels, like to the grocery store and other places that we're wearing a mask, whether it's homemade or something that you've purchased. but you can get out and walk in your communities to stay healthy, get that sunshine, get that outdoor movement. But you could take a piece of chalk with you. You could write outside of, neighbor's home something positive, or if you see a message that someone wrote, for you, you could add on to it. I think that's another way to connect in a distant way. But there's other great, platforms. Many of our schools are utilizing Teams, which is what we're recording on, Microsoft Teams. So that might be a way to connect in the chat room. There's also other video formats, whether Instagram has their video streaming, or Zoom, which is open up for free right now. I'd caution a little bit about Zoom, just because we have seen some people get on there and misuse that platform. But there is a free aspect to that, which is great. There's FaceTime for Apple users. And also, schools are starting to get into a place where they're opening up opportunities for students and teachers to connect in a way that's meaningful. And I think we'll see more of that happen as time goes on, as we enter the weeks ahead. But Sonia and Jennifer, do you have any other additional ideas there for our community?
I think that you included all the great resources. I just, it's fun to watch my own daughter, like some of the groups that they bring together. It's like a pet parade. Everybody shares their pet, and making it fun while using those platforms is just a nice way to connect. And it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to feel awkward. And I know for the beginning phases of that, it probably does for students, as they kind of see their classmates that they haven't seen for a while, their friends that they haven't seen. But there are ideas to just make that a little more organic and fun.
Yeah, and I agree with everything that's been said so far. But I also think, even the telephone, we love seeing each other's faces, because you can actually read so many nonverbals when you can actually see somebody. But even hearing somebody's voice, I think, is a good strategy, because we can still have conversations about, here's what I'm doing at home. What are you doing? What kind of toys are you playing with? What type of activities are you and your family doing? So really listening to each other and connecting with each other, but it's something that they may be able to implement within their families also.
Yeah, we've captured quite a few questions that we received, a lot of the common ones throughout our discussion. We do really appreciate, again, those that have found their way to this video and look for more. And I can tell you that your schools at this time are really anxious to connect with you, really excited to give you a call, find ways to support your both your academic needs, but also those social emotional needs as well. So, school counselors, school psychologists, school social workers, your teachers are still all available through phone, through email, and we just highly encourage you to reach out to them, especially if you need additional support. Take a look at those resources. We are here with you. We recognize it is a great struggle right now. And one thing that we told ourselves as we entered the recording of this is that, how can we stay positive? How can we look towards the future? How can we get excited about those things yet to come, and try to do our best to stay composed and continue to move along in a positive, healthy way. Hopefully you gained a couple great ideas from this video, and we look forward to offering more in the weeks to come. Take care, D11 family.